Alright, I'm using an updated version of iMovie, so hope this works properly. So, really important thing to be aware of when you're going through really difficult time and you find that you are just not able to move out of it. You seem like to be trapped in this whirlpool of whether it's sadness, being depressed, feeling empty, just just feeling really not alive and feeling like there's no point to anything. Um, I've been there. A lot of us have. I think all humans have been there. We've all gone through this, and the it's really surprising to me how little we know professionally, like in the medical field or psychology, about how to really help. And it's super important to understand what's going on, and basically, there's parts the brain, the way that our consciousness, the way that we our mind works is that it's very similar to digestive system. So you've got the mouth that eats, and then everything gets processed, and then when everything's digested and processed, it's absorbed into the body, and then it's used. And the mind works in a very similar way. Except the mouth that's always open to eat is instead now the eyes, the ears, the nose, everything that's absorbed into the mind. So all your experiences, everything gets absorbed into the mind, and then there's a part of the mind that acts like a processor, like the digestive system. So when you're in going through something or have just experienced something really difficult, there can be this period of dread. Everything is dreadful, and you can feel it. For a lot of people, it manifests in depression, anxiety, just low energy, loss of appetite, not being able to sleep properly, just not this overriding feeling of like there's no point to do anything. Yeah, that's how it can manifest. But for the majority of us, even like I said, in the professional field of psychology, medicine, all this, there there's so much lack of understanding of why all of that is happening, and the root of it is all linked to the thoughts that you're having. So it's negative thinking that's causing all of this. And before you all tune out and be like, okay, don't want to hear this, I understand if you're feeling that way, because as humans, we want easy fixes, and that's totally understandable. Who wouldn't want something easy to fix? But just hear me out, because I think for now the easy fix doesn't exist. Maybe in a few years it will. We'll be able to take a pill and everything will be fine. But for now, most of the stuff that exists is just a temporary patch, and the way to really deal with this at its root cause, first step is to understand how your mind works, and understand that, let's go back to the digestive system analogy, okay? So everything's being absorbed through your eyes, your ears, your mouth, your touch. Everything goes into your mind. Then there's the processing part of your brain. Now, in a healthy mind, the processing part is balanced. It will take in, like, let's say I'm walking down the street and I'll see a group of people in front of me walking towards me. That gets absorbed through the eyes, that information, and then the processor will be like, okay, there's people, make sure you move out of the way so that you don't bump in, or whatever. Yeah, so the processor processes the information, and then you act accordingly. Okay, Now, if this happens, if the same experience happens over and over and over and over and over again, then the processing part of your brain will start to turn into, it will become designed and geared for this situation, so that next time you won't even have to look when people are coming. You'll just automatically, the processor has taken the information, can even maybe hear the people coming, and then it will become instinctual. Okay? So when it becomes instinctual, that's when you have less control of it now, because the processing part of your brain has experienced this so much that it's decided, okay, this is happening so much now that I think we can safely, permanently change the processor so that it's geared for this situation. Now, here's the downside of that, is that if you're not aware of how your processor is being adjusted, then you can lose control of your mind. Like, I'll tell you, for example, how. Let's say, for example, one freak day, you're walking down this street, and one of the people in the group walking towards you decides that they want to take your money or mug you or something, yeah? So that experience can be traumatic, painful, and then what happens is, you can compare it to like a breakup. You have an experience like you break up with your ex-girlfriend, or divorce with your wife, or whatever, any traumatic experience. It's different to like all the times before when you were just walking down the street and people were cool and friendly, but now this time someone's come and wants to take your money, and now you've been scarred with this experience. And what happens is you start to think about it a lot. And I believe our mind does this to try to quickly um, mold the processor, because the processor usually like will mold over time, which is the safest way, because that way it can get an average reading of what's going on in your environment. But when trauma happens, you will start to like think about it. So you'll be up all night like thinking about what happened to you earlier that day with that person who took a knife out and wanted your money. Then you'll probably think about it every day for the next month, could be for the next few months. Again, like if you're going through a breakup or anything traumatic, someone's died, a death, whatever, you'll do the same thing. You'll start thinking about your ex constantly, thinking about what happened constantly, trying to figure it out and why and this and this. The same thing with most traumatic experiences. So I believe that the reason why our mind does that is to speed up the morphing process of the processor part of our brain, so that the processor will quickly adapt to change according to what just happened, so that it can protect us. It's there to protect us, remember that. The problem is that 99 times, or let's actually say 9,000 times, you'll walk down that street, or you'll meet someone and they'll be friendly and everything will be cool, but just that one time can be a problem. But now what your mind has done is, every time you go out in the street and you're walking down the street, now you're like more aware, more alert. You've got more anxiety now, because you're not able to just focus on what you were doing and where you're going. Now you're focusing on much more stuff, which takes energy, creates more anxiety, drains you more. And you've got now these thoughts of like what happened last time. So you've got the negative thoughts happening. 95% of people aren't even going to be aware of all this stuff that I'm talking about that's actually going on. It's just you're unaware of it, and the thoughts are happening subconsciously. So when you go through a traumatic experience, like let's say a breakup or whatever, it's really important to become aware of this, because if you aren't aware, and the first 3 months of the breakup are critical, because that's when you're going to be thinking constantly about your ex. You're going to be thinking, what did I do wrong? I'm not good enough. I'm never going to meet anyone. I'm blah, blah, all this constant stream of negative thinking that's going to morph your processing part of your brain into more of a negative filter. Whereas before you were maybe more positive, more balanced, you would see someone and you'd think, oh, that person's attractive. Oh, I could have an awesome, relationship with this person. Now the processor is turning into warning, warning, warning. Remember what happened last time, okay? And it will, instead of keeping you balanced, it's going to close you, it's going to make you avoid, it's going to make you run away. And it can, if you allow it, if you allow those thoughts to happen, and morph this processor into this kind of defensive thing that's afraid, it can become a lot more difficult to recondition it later, to readjust it later. Because like I said, things start off very easy to guide and change, but then they become instinctual. And when they become instinctual, it's very difficult. That when it's instinctual, it's like when you meet someone and you just have fear, or you have anxiety. Social anxiety, this is the reason for it, because you've been hurt by people in the past, or so you're just afraid and you can't control it. It's just deep and it's rooted instinctually, very hard to control. So the best is to like catch it before it changes your processing part of your mind. But if it has already changed you, like for example me, I've been dealing with, I only became aware of all this very recently, so now I'm having to recondition parts of, my processor of my mind, recondition it to things that it has learned since I was maybe 12. So it's like decades of like conditioned responses that create anxiety or negative thinking. Now I've got to remold that processor part of my brain slowly, so that it doesn't see things negatively. So, okay, so, and, like I said, there's so little awareness and information, but I've come to all of this from just reading so many different things. I've never ever read it explained the way that I'm explaining. I'm just taking things from so many different sources and figuring it out, and I'm sure what I'm talking about does exist somewhere, because it always does. There's so many smart humans out there, but being aware of this is so critical. Again, because when you go through the trauma, that's when you've got to be aware of this, so that you don't spend all day just turning your processing part of your mind into like a negative processor. It's when I say negative, like remember why it's doing it. It's because it's trying to protect you. It's a fear-based processor. You want to keep it always balanced. A little bit of fear is always healthy and good for you, because it's there to protect you. But it's also important to remember that we live in a world where it's almost more important to be loving, open, caring, and just strong, and confident. So it comes down to confidence at the end of the day. So if you allow fearful thoughts to keep going and going and going and going, then it can chip away at your confidence over time. Now, the way that you basically work the other way is, or try to prevent this from happening, is that for me, journaling or being aware of your thoughts, it's so critical. I was just writing down today and on my moped, and I had a negative thought and I wasn't even aware of it. I just started daydreaming negative thoughts, which is what happens to most of us. And every time you're doing that, you're just exercising that negative processor in your mind. I managed to be aware of the thoughts I was having, and then I'm like, okay, no, this isn't a helpful thought, and it's not even true. Okay, it's just that part of my mind has just started leaning negatively. So it's just designed that way now. So everything that I see, everything that I hear, everything that I experience is going to be going through this filter of fear and negativity. Rather than like when we're younger, when we're children, and we have less reasons to fear, Everything goes through the filter of, love and acceptance and awe and curiosity, you know. So being aware of this is critical, and like I said, it's not interesting, or it might be to a lot of people. To me, it's interesting, but it's not. I don't know, like an exciting thing to talk about. People want to hear, something maybe more simpler, easier, but understand how your mind is working, okay? Because every day the thoughts that you're having are shaping the processing part of your brain into something, and you got to be really aware of that, because that's how you're going to see the world, and that's how you're going to respond to the world. So there's the absorbing part of the brain, which is everything that allows you to experience the world: eyes, ears, nose, blah blah blah. Then the processing part of the brain that translates it, and you will see it in that way according to how your processor is set up. And then there's the instinctual part, which is like your hard drive. It's like once it's gone through the processor, then it gets saved in the hard drive, and then it becomes instinct. So let's say, for example, you suffer just chronic depression or anxiety. You're always nervous, you're always anxious, you're always sad or depressed, or always angry. That's because it's all become now instinctual. And doesn't mean you can't change. You can change, but it's going to be a case of every day you've got to exercise that processor, because the processor now has been set to be careful, warning, warning, be afraid, anxiety, be sad, avoid situations, be on your own, blah blah blah. Yeah. To reshape it and to remold it, you have to basically be aware of it, and journaling helps so much. That's why people say focus on grateful things. Try to see the good things in people, and those are the kind of thoughts you want to exercise. And the more and more you exercise and say, no, the world is awesome, I'm so grateful, blah blah blah, I'm so happy, and I see the good in people. There's bad everywhere, but I'm focusing on the good. Yes, I got mugged yesterday, but 9,000 times it's been awesome. You've got to focus on those things more. Okay? It's a big topic, and we could go on about this for ages, like why our brain is set up this way. We're just not designed for the society we live in today. The technology and everything has evolved so quickly that our biology just hasn't caught up. Our biology is still set up for, tigers jumping out, and then, we're supposed to be in fear. If you look at animals out there, they're all in super fear. They're all cautious. You'll look at little birds, they're always just looking around, or chipmunks or cats. Animals are in constant state of fear to protect them, because they know that if they slip for a second, they're dead. We also have that built in us, but it hurts us more than it helps us in the world we live in today. If we were living in the wild, it would help us. Okay, we need that. We need to be constantly alert. Okay, so that a bear doesn't just jump up one day and kill us. It's all over. But in the world we live in today, we don't. It can, if you have low confidence because of this, if you have constant anxiety, it can not help us with our social interactions. It cannot help us with relationships, jobs, things like that. All right, I'm going to wrap this up now, so I hope that makes sense. Hope there's something in there that helps. I would say that this is probably one of the most important breakup tips, or just trauma tips of all, is be aware that you have this processor. The processor is basically you. It's how you interpret the world and how you respond to the world. It's your personality. It's who you are. So love it, look after it, turn it into something that is going to be incredible, that's going to be badass and help you. You want to be confident, you want to be open, loving, but you also do want to have some sense and wisdom, so that you